Everyone, welcome to the Monday business meeting of the BOCC. We'll head down to, I know, employee labor insurance. Jessica was on a phone call, so she might be in a little bit late. She had no human resource requests. She did have an executive session later. Budget, I don't see Kathy. She would be budget and risk management, I'm sure. Marin's on her way over to Tri-City. So Kim, I guess information technology.
I got to cut the line today. Thank you, commissioners. Good morning. Kim Hort, IT Director. First thing is I want to say congratulations. We have fully deployed the Cisco phones. We feel like we can finally breathe. We're working on cleanup items such as moving analog lines over, but all the desk phones have been updated. So it was a lot of work and it was a hard deadline. So
yeah,
we're very pleased to say that's done. The next thing is tomorrow on the agenda, we do have a software renewal for our two-factor authentication Duo software. So I didn't know if you guys had any questions or concerns.
Anything? Yeah.
I always wonder where the appropriate place to ask questions is. On the Duo, that 56,000 or so, is that an annual fee?
It's close to 53 and yes.
Oh, it's an annual fee?
Mm-hmm.
What are we paying for there exactly?
We're paying for the cloud platform, the application, the keys, the licensing. This is not just for employee user accounts, it's also for service accounts. So we have about 698 users, but that could also be like the assessor's office has frontline workstations. So that also counts for that profile login as well.
And that is something required by the risk pool?
It is county policy. We adopted a two-factor authentication policy.
No, just answer the question.
It is becoming an insurance requirement, yes.
No. Is it a requirement from the risk pool at the moment?
Not a formal requirement. Requirements are issued for like the elections department. They're required to have two-factor. Health and Human Services and the Sheriff's Office are also required to have two-factor.
What other two-factor authentications did you consider?
What do you mean? Like logging into your profile, your account online? What do you mean?
Any of those things or other two-factor authentications other than just this particular one, right?
This platform covers all of those platforms, two-factor authentication.
My question is trying to figure out, did we have to do that? We've already spent how much on this?
It's an annual licensing and it's based off of a user count. So this is for 750 licenses.
Right, but we had it last year, correct?
Correct. This is an annual renewal for software.
Right. So far, how much have we paid for the dual factor authentication that we're using?
Would be around $50,000 a year.
So 53 plus another 50, like we spent 100, or is there a year that I've missed?
Can you I guess I'm not following what you're asking.
I'm trying to figure out how much we have spent on two-factor authentication.
Okay. So it was first deployed in 2019 for elections, health department, and the sheriff's office. And then by, I believe, 2021, that's when we started rolling it out countywide.
Right. Whenever we spend this kind of money, I try and figure out what it was that we bought with that. So for election, so how much did it cost us in 2019?
I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay, but it was a lot less than 50,000, right? Because it's on a per user basis.
Yes.
Okay. The problems we've had in the past are not from, this is for you to say, no, Aaron's out to lunch here. The problems we've had in the past, of which I know, is that someone clicked on an errant email or responded to a phone call and changed data that they shouldn't have changed. This doesn't do anything for that. So my real fundamental question is, are we buying real protection? We're more comfortable, but who's going to argue against this? I mean, after all, it's for security. And I'm just saying, I'm not sure I buy that.
So just to kind of add, we've had issues where there's been brute force attempts. So users such as our Sonic Wall using a personal device, remoting in, using that platform, it requires two-factor. And what was happening, we've actually seen it in reports. I can't recall the exact date, but maybe within the last 2 months, there was a brute force, which is where AI is trying to run scripts of passwords and user profiles trying to get in. And even if they had the password, they would have to have that authentication to then get on our network. So it has protected us. Just even recently with brute force attack and password.
Okay. I would. How would I know that it was that we're actually doing? I'm concerned that we're overpaying for protection. I'm concerned that we didn't have really a real requirement to do this. I'm struggling at the moment with the example you just mentioned with AI coming in. So I don't want to say too much because I am ignorant there. But if you'd be happy enough to educate me on that, I'd be happy to hear that. And I see Aaron has his hand up. So Mr. Chairman, did you want to do that right now?
Sure, if you're good with that. Aaron, go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
So just to add to what Kim was talking about, so the two-factor platform not only protects logging into the Windows machine, it also protects 365 logins and everything connected to 365. So it also prevents external attacks as well. So if somebody did happen to open an email and grab their login information, it does prevent people from being able to just use your account regardless. So it does extend into the 365 platform as well as anything that's also connected to it. So it gives us account protection as well as protection to the computer itself.
Yeah, is that protection available only with this element?
There are other options, but this allows us to extend beyond just 365. So there are other options out there, but Duo allows us to not only protect the computer itself and manage it at a cloud level, but then also extend it into other platforms. For example, it extends over to the MTTs that use the body cam network. They're connected into our Azure platform. And therefore that, because it hooks into our Azure platform, they automatically get two-factor. So it does allow us to adopt two-factor to other agencies, to other platforms without having to buy additional modules, different hook-ins, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so, but that looks like the numbers then. So how many people need the body cam?
Everyone in the sheriff's office, so MDT,
Right, so we're
about
talking,
50
yeah,
people.
that's fewer than 10% of the licenses that we've got. And if we're paying by the licenses, I have to ask, you know, we all have accounts on the cloud elsewhere, and anytime I log into any of those places, they'll say, fine, let me give you a call back. And they call back and they give you a number and you have to cough the number up. With the Duo factor here, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm going to pull it out. And I now I'm going to be able to continue to operate without the duo factor in my computer. And if I do things correctly, I won't have to plug in again for quite some time, as long as I don't log out. So there are holes, and there some key transactions. Maybe you have key transactions that require the duo Bob, I guess. Anyhow, let's go ahead and maybe you can, maybe Kim can tell me, show me the number of incidences that have happened in the past 12 months that actually required the duo.
Are you asking for like the number of users that have activated their duo, or are you asking about like potential incidences, like the one I described with the sonic wall brute force?
I'm asking for the actual instances where the duo saved the bacon.
We would have to do some additional like report gathering. Like I said, I know that the brute force just recently happened. So we can get that information to you.
What does the brute force do? Just try every password?
Yeah, once they capture, a hacker captures like the user's profile name, like your ID, what it will do is it will run through a gamut of passwords. So it will run it.
Yeah, that's a puzzling thing, because I don't know Rick Dahl's username, except that we have a pattern where it's dollr@cowlitzwa.gov. So that's not a challenge. The challenge is trying to figure out his password. And I'll bet you if I try to log into his account, about the 10th time, something's going to say, you know, you've tried too many times. This is not the right thing. And they'll shut the account down for some amount of time. So I don't understand your particular example.
So the example that you're giving, so let's say you did get Rick's password. In that event, the two-factor would then challenge you because you don't have the key, or for some employees that have also their phone registered, it prevents you from going any farther. It's the whole point of two-factor, is that it
Oh, I understand
prevents
the point.
the
and-
second.
Yeah, no, I
attack.
understand the point, and that would stop that. Now, if Rick Dahl's password got compromised, that would stop it. So would other dual factor authentications. The response I'm hoping to hear is this turns out to be the most economical and safest way for us to do it, and we save three transgressions a year at the cost of $50,000. And then you say, is it worth it to the board that we did that? And the answer might be yes. But absent that, I don't know. Okay. Another question is going to go to the telephone system. So on the phone system, I have not heard anything but people unhappy with the new phone system. Have you heard anything like that?
We've had a few users that have mentioned that they don't like it, or that it's challenging, or things aren't working as expected. And we take those and we address the issue, whether it's through training or if there's configuration follow-up. So we've been trying to stay in tune with our departments.
There's always a problem when you change a tool.
Sure.
And so I'm discounting that. In fact, I'm still struggling with trying to figure out an easy way of entering people into the dictionary, if you my
The personal
address
directory.
book, right? And but there are it's 2023 that we bought this thing, or at least 2022, and it seems pretty green. Like I got a call from someone in the building, and I ought to be able to push a button and say, enter that into my
To
address
like
book.
save it into your
Yeah.
address book.
I don't know how to do that. I don't think I can do that because I pressed every button around. And similarly, I should be able to connect with my phone. It's a voice over IP, so I know I've got IP to my phone. I should be able to create a address list to their specifications in an Excel spreadsheet and say, absorb this and go do it.
So we,
And so that kind of greenery is something I would expect out of I would not expect that out of something that's 600 plus thousands of dollars. And remember, at the time, there were many suspicions as to whether that was a good expenditure or not. But so let me leave it at that. There's stuff that I think should be worked on the phone system and should have been included in there.
I will add that to the list to see if we can do like a import of phone contacts. Any other feedback?
I don't know specifically other than if you dial an extension, you're like,
That issue's been resolved.
has it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
You're talking about like that delay, empty.
Yeah, I haven't been here for 4 days, so I haven't tried it since. So
Yeah,
if it's
the
been within the past 4 days, then
Yes. I
okay.
believe on Thursday morning, at 6 a.m., we did a system reboot. It was a configuration because we were straddling between the Avaya platform and the Cisco platform. So it was a matter of trying to route to the different gateways. And since we're moved over, we were able to
Yeah.
get rid of that.
Anything else? Okay, Kim, thank you. Jessica, you didn't have anything till the end, right? Okay, budget.
Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. Today for budget, I really don't have any updates. I'm just continuing to work on the 24-25 budget. And we're continuing to do that. Last week I sent y'all a revised summary of revenues and expenses, like a trend history of what actuals have been and compared to what we're budgeting for 23 and 24. So were there any questions about what I sent you? Okay. So that's all I have for budget. I'm here to support Jeremy Austin, who's going to present risk management analytics. He's not present. He'll be on Zoom.
Is he in his office?
No, he's not in his office. He had some vehicle issues and someone hit him over the weekend. And hit him, and then they did not stay while he was.
Okay,
So
I see he came on there. Okay.
This
So
is
he's gonna-
Jeremy.
Go ahead.
Good morning. My system just came online. I apologize. Do the commissioners have the handout for the presentation?
yes, they have the handout. And we don't see you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm trying to resolve that.
There he is.
Good morning.
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 I've met most of you, but I'm here today to present our enterprise risk management and strategic planning ideas moving forward. I began collecting data as soon as October, but I found that we don't keep most of our own statistics that I would work from for risk management. We've relied on third-party vendors to keep it. And I've struggled with the data integrity from the third-party vendors. And so some of the slides that I'll present to you are proposed and hold only place value. So I don't have some of the numbers that I would normally like to present to you. When I come to have these meetings, I would like to give you a slice of a dashboard to give you an at-a-glance view of the numbers that I think are important. And if you agree or disagree, we can add or detract from those values. I think that one of the most important parts of my job is to mitigate or eliminate and detect risk. And in a municipality, I've come from industry, and usually I'm competing against other people. I believe that as a municipality, we're competing against waste in redundant hours, dissimilar equipment, lack of process knowledge by our employees, because we'll be wasting the people's money. And I'm going to strive really hard to prevent that from happening. And the way I believe that I will do that is to define what our risks are. I will try to measure them, analyze them, institute some processes to fix or address the analysis, and then control what it is that we've discovered. That process is not something that I invented at all. It comes from lean management. In slide 3, there's a handout that describes that. I didn't want to go too in depth into that, but it gives you an idea of how it is that I would use these tools to manage moving forward and understanding the data that we have. And again, our data, we haven't.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Hold on, Jeremy. Can we put the slide up for the other people to see? Okay, so we'll take care of it from this side.
Okay.
And I think
you
when
like
you
me to
said
wait?
slide 3, that is the third page.
Yes,
What you're
sir.
Looking at. Okay.
Like waiting for your microwave now, right?
Well, a little bit, right? It's, yeah. Well, I will speak to it as it's coming up, is that this is a proven and tested method of improving processes. And it doesn't matter if we're creating something or just trying to manage bettering any sort of process improvement. And I don't think that.
Jeremy, a question. You had mentioned earlier that you had suspicions of the data supplied by third parties, right?
Let me backtrack a tiny bit on that. So I'm not suspect of the value of it or the accuracy of it. What I am suspect of, and will say that it's not clean data. So for instance, when we're talking about injuries from our third-party administrator, they will name the same injury different types. They'll use a different word. And so when I'm looking at a table of many years of injuries, it's very difficult to compile statistics using different names. So it took me more than 3 man days from the data they had to make those values equal each other, to be the same, to be equivalent, so I could start running trends. I'm in the process of doing that now. I cleaned up the injury data so that they all represent. So a sprain is a sprain, not a sprain or a bruise. They will all have integral and like terminology now, and that took me quite a bit of time.
You're speaking of a previous existence on your part, right? Not what you've been doing here.
No, here.
You've spent 3 man years, or did I misunderstand?
3 man days.
Oh, man days.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you're fast.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm too old to spend 3 years on anything, I think, but yeah.
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 Okay, and I'll just chime in. I get to see a lot of data, and I do tend to be suspicious of data in general. So I really do appreciate you narrowing down and putting them in the right category and the proper attributes.
Thank you. And there's another part to data is that it must have an inferential link to what it is that we're really trying to measure, right? So, I mean, for instance, as a parent, like if my metric were to get smiles out of my kids, I could give them ice cream for dinner and I'd sure get a lot of smiles that day. But what value does that have to the rest of our process? So it's going to take I have some industry experience with both safety and risk management. So I have a pretty good idea of what trends to look for. And so I'm trying to put those into terminology that I've used in the past that are also very clear to anyone who could at a glance look at it and make it very clear. There's not, this isn't technical mumbo jumbo. It should be really plain and straightforward and easy for anyone to pick up and understand. And so to make a process simple actually is a lot of work. And I'm in the middle of, we haven't kept those records historically that I've found. And the records that we do have are a little difficult to track. They are in multiple pathways. There's duplicate data and misnamed data. And so I felt that the very easiest way to start was to get that information from our vendors, like our third-party administrator for injuries. And they provided me with quite a bit of data, not enough. Apparently that's a novel request to them. And to their credit, that's not their job. They're keeping track of it on their end to manage how they spend the money on the claims. And so they've done a decent job of keeping track of the data. So now it's our job to keep track of it and understand it and then measure it against them. So I'm pretty happy with how quickly they did give me information, and he's really quick to work with me to try to get it into numbers that we can understand and use. For instance, we're kind of jumping ahead a tiny bit. And so if we would like to talk more about the demand process, we certainly can. That's slide 3. That's what's up there now. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's relatively simple. I mean, if we have a process, we have to define it. We have to put parameters on it. And the best way to make that communicatable to anyone sitting around is to make it a number to define it. It's an intrinsic value instead of something subjective. Now, granted, there are some subjective things that we can put numbers to and be close, have an inferential link to, but number of injuries is pretty simple. Number of days lost due to injury is pretty simple. Number of days restricted to the work that a person can do is pretty simple. We just have to get the data in a form that uses all the same language, and then we can start trending that. So I would start trending it by departments, by time of year. We can drill down as far as we want to go, even to supervisors or individuals, or time of year has historically had a pretty big effect too, right after the holidays. So what I'm working towards is making a dashboard for you to look at. So we can spot immediately. We'll have a trend value. We'll have a normative value that usually occurs if we see something that spikes. You can see it at the at a glance view, say, hey, why is this number so high? Then I can come back to my own data and drill down accordingly. But I would like to present you with numbers that are the 30,000 foot view. Take a look. Why is this number out of whack? If all the numbers are even, you could take a look at it and we can move on. We don't have to talk about it. And an example of that is the 4th slide. So these are actual numbers. They were provided to me by our third-party administrator. Recordable injuries per month, and then broken down by the year. And a recordable injury is defined by OSHA and WSHA as something where someone at very least has to go to a facility and receive medical treatment. It also encompasses anything beyond that injury-wise. And so these are values since 2021 by month and year. So that is one of the numbers that I would like to give to you. And it's pretty easy to graphically represent that. So for instance, slide 5 is a bar graph. And we can see that historically there are some months that are higher than other, and we need to pay attention. And then I would drill down to find, you could say, hey, Jeremy, why is February so high? Why is February tend to be high? And then I can go back, drill down in the analytics that we have, and I can provide you an answer. Am I free to move on? Is that clear?
Oh, yeah, actually, we've got somewhat of a time constraint, so
Okay.
that condensation's a good thing.
Very good. Okay. So again, then, that's graphically represented in slide 5, slide 6. This is one where I would like your input on. This is a big dashboard that I would like to present to you in the interest of, we don't have these numbers. We haven't kept track of them. We might have some of them, but I don't have the data available to tell you that it's good value, so I didn't present it. But these historically, in my experience, are very important numbers to the health of an organization as far as safety goes. So a first aid is something where we have an incident, but it's not a medical treatment. It's not an OSHA recordable. A very important number that I would like to really start getting departmental buy-in on is a near miss. So we have an incident where nothing has happened, and thankfully nothing did happen, but it had the potential to. So I would really like to start generating reports on those near misses, and then we can mitigate the issue that caused that, especially if we start getting a fair number of those near misses that are like. Another good one is suggestions. I see that the county has a suggestion link on the risk management. Say, hey, this is my safety idea. This would just keep track of how many we've received, and then we could make other metrics from that. Like, is it a valuable one? Is it one that we acted on? Did we act on it or not? Why or why not? But these are just 30,000 foot view, look down, see what kind of numbers we're generating. Safety meetings are important, one, due to compliance, and two, it's a great opportunity to get the culture buy-in on safety and start putting it in the forefront of people's minds. Safety meetings are a great time to build rapport and get to meet people. Like, I would love to be a part of group safety meetings and go meet everybody and kind of see where we are with how we handle them and see if there's a place to improve there. The last one, the policy, the last two are compliance numbers. So in Washington and in OSHA, when you have an accident prevention policy, they prescribe how often you have to look at your policies to see if they're accurate for what you're producing. So I would just keep track of how many, the periodicity of whatever, like a lockout, tagout, or any part of our safety policy. When is the next one due? And then the following would be, hey, did we do it on time? Yes or no? And then we would start looking into, if it was no, why not? So the next slide is part of mitigating that, because training is a very important part of mitigating safety issues or preventing them altogether. And so we do have an online service. They weren't able to provide me these numbers yet. So unfortunately, this is an illustrative number. But what we'd be looking at is the types of training. We have new employees that need to be trained, annual refreshers or whatever periodicity of refreshment training is due. And then I think a very important number that gets overlooked often is we offer elective training, and most institutions do. And I would like to get it to the point where people are taking these elective trainings just to broaden their own safety knowledge, or I would keep track of any job related trainings too, just to see what kind of value, because this costs us money to have this service. And so if no one's going to use the elective trainings, and that's part of the cost of having it, then I'll say, hey, we're not using it. I'm not paying for this anymore. So it has a monetary value as well. And then a big part of the county that I wasn't accustomed to, that kind of took me by surprise, are the claims against the county. This is a new world to me. This is slide 8. And so we communicate with a very valuable resource called the Risk Pool. They're a terribly organized entity with a lot of valuable information, and he quickly provided me claims numbers. And so what this is any claim that the Risk Pool gets. I didn't break it down in any way, shape, or form. It's an accident insurance claim, a tort claim, anything. And so right now, as of 8 days ago, there are 9 open claims that we have with the Risk Pool. We closed one in October, meaning it's over and done with. And the reason that this last number is so high is that we actually do have a claim open since 2018. So I went back as far as we had an open claim and just counted claims moving forward. And so since 2018, we've had 141 of those claims. I think that's an important number to know because those have a tendency to be extremely expensive. So I want to get a good feel for what those are, trend, which, where they come from, who makes them, why they make them, if it's something that we can nip in the bud and even prevent them from happening. And just any way we can save money on those is of value because those are expensive. And they have as you can see, one's hanging out since 2018. So they do nothing but cost resource. I mean, we've been babysitting one since 2018. We need to get rid of stuff like that.
So Jeremy, you mentioned that we're not sure about how many trainings are being undertaken. We're not getting that
I'm
data.
not sure. We haven't historically asked for that report. And so I just recently, this last week, got administrative access to get those numbers, and they are being kept track of within our system. I didn't find where the county has been doing that. I could be mistaken. I just haven't found it. I haven't found anybody who's done it. And so I just went ahead and I started from zero. I went right to the person we pay to keep track of this stuff and started generating numbers from their system.
So I am curious about some of the numbers that you provided on recordable injuries per month per year.
Those are accurate.
That's slide number 4.
Yes.
And curiously, in 2023, even though we still have 2 months left to go, we have very few claims.
Yeah.
And this is a period of time where, well, the claims manager, the risk manager has been between jobs or gone, or we haven't had a very active risk manager focus, and claims have gone, recordable injuries have gone down. Are you going to be able to explain why that seems to be?
That's a great question.
I can add a little context. During the month of October, we did have 3 claims. They didn't get completed with the right paperwork or the right numbers. And so the chart is missing some of our most recent claims. Just in the month of October, we had 3.
Those are, I think you're talking about risk pool claims though, Kathy.
No, they were SIF. They were SIF forms.
2s. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 that were for October, but our third-party administrator didn't have them. And so that's why they didn't report back to Jeremy those numbers.
And as mentioned, it's a lagging number. It might even only be at the end of the first week of October that they were able to provide me data. So they may even have them, but I don't in this chart.
But it still is low. You're right. Your comment looking at 23 is lower than, for example, 2022.
And I can understand, I mean, it's lagging, so it's going to be behind. But it is interesting, the increase the 2 previous years, which we had a change in risk management due to retirement. And one of the things that he really focused on was safety training. And we used to start off our staff meetings with a safety reminder. And then that system didn't keep going for a lot of different reasons. And we're seeing recordable injuries increase. So it'll be interesting as Jeremy analyzes the figures for the recommendations you're going to make to get those numbers back down.
I appreciate
if there are things that we need to be emphasizing that we have stopped doing or never did do to begin with. I know some departments have a better emphasis on safety, especially dealing with heavy equipment.
Sure.
That's very much a requirement. But
well, yeah, I appreciate that comment. And that's a reason I even put safety meetings as a statistic. I wholeheartedly believe that if it's as an adult, if you don't hear something frequently, you don't address it. You know, you got plenty of other things to do in life besides remember something you looked at 8 months ago. It needs to be in the forefront. It needs to be part of the conversation. And so I think safety meetings are a big part. And looking at some of the data too, to quickly answer your question, some of those, any COVID related missed times are added in there too. So there's a lot more of just sickness that are being counted as recordables than historically usually have ever happened. So some of those numbers might be a little high because of COVID.
Thank you.
So I guess I would just take us again to slide 9, which just is a graphical representation of our claims. So right now we don't have a ton of claims open and we want as few as possible. And so I'm just trying to show that, you know, claims happen and we are doing a pretty decent job of keeping the number open low, but the more we can reduce those, the better. And so that's a number I want to spend a real, any part of the gray matter I have that I could add to this. I want to work on this. This is to me as a project. And then finally,
Of course, Jeremy, oftentimes claims are resolved with financial settlements. And our willingness to pay big bucks can speed up that process. But that's not necessarily in the best interest of
that's not
clients.
our, you know, and those count, that closes them, right? I mean, it still
Yeah,
is
that's
closed
right.
value. So, I mean, that's a great input is, okay, how did we close them? I mean, did the county really lose by closing this claim? Was it value closing it? Could we have done something in a different method to close it? I mean, at the end of the day, closing the claim is not the goal. It's like I was talking about, we need to have an inferential link between our numbers and what real life is. And so I'm not shooting just to close the claims. I'm looking to understand why they happen and if we can prevent them, and at the lowest cost to our constituents. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to avoid waste. And I think that all of these things, keeping people safe and avoiding these claims and moving forward in that direction, does two things. It saves us money and it helps people. And so that's why I like this kind of work. Those are two very important things to me: protecting the people's money and protecting people. And so I'm excited to take this on. And then finally, in slide 10 is how I'm trying to make this happen for us. And so data integrity has been lacking I've only been here a month, but I'm having I don't see that we track a lot of things on our own, and we don't use very consistent methods of communicating the data. So in today's world, you know, we're not writing things on a piece of paper, we're creating things in tables. And if you don't have data integrity inside of those tables, it's a nightmare. We have to have a method of communicating that is the same across our entire footprint. And we also need, you know, a best practice is to understand how to even save things. So that's what I meant by pathways, is that a folder should be structured in the same way in any department. So if we need to look, we can look and quickly gather that data. It's taken me a long time even just to find our data because we don't have those consistent pathways. And then an important part of doing that is to matriculate the department ownership of their own statistics. It's very rare in my experience that departments don't keep track of their own safety stats, and if a claim arises from their department, to keep track of that. They need it. Getting buy-in and to own those numbers and to feel good about those numbers makes this job easy to help run. And I think it promotes safety throughout the entire footprint that way. And then I can compare our statistics with our vendors in a meaningful way. I don't have to spend 3 man-days going through their spreadsheet to figure out what is what. So we can develop a rapport with our vendors. We can communicate with apples and apples and save a bunch of time, and then start really doing the real work, which is preventing these things from happening. I think a big part of that is how we manage projects. I think you'll see a consistent theme what I'm looking for is consistency across our footprint, even in project management. Like I should be able to come to you and say, this is my next project. These are the milestones I want to hit for achieving X, and I want to achieve it by this day. If I can't do it, it's a roadblock. What caused my roadblock? And then finally, what am I doing to work around or solve that problem? And if we all communicated that way, it'd be very easy to tabulate that data and understand. Projects might be something like, so for instance, we have cameras all over our footprint, and we have a number of vendors who are providing those cameras, and we have a number of different systems. Like if we were to compile make them all the same, then we could even say, hey, the garage camera X just broke. Do you have an extra one? Yeah, I can run one down from over here. We don't use much, and facilitate its quick use and repair instead of having to go wait for a vendor to provide us one, because we all know supply chain issues have been a bear lately. I'm struggling to wrap that up quickly. I think that that's an important part. But that's a project that I'm going to try to work on and define for you and hopefully get some input on. And then finally, a big aspect of any institution is managing change, because we have expected change. We have unexpected change, and the two big parts of doing that is planning for it. So you can plan for unexpected change and see who it is that we need to contact, what it is that we need to do about it. Expected change is turnover, phone systems, new cameras, how we manage its matriculation into our system, because we need to know who it affects and what systems it affects, plan for that before we bring it in, and then have as much as we can planned for when we bring in these new systems or equipment. Those are my big projects that I have in front of me.
So Jeremy, another question that I have in working with the risk pool, are they in a position to make recommendations or do an analysis for how Cowlitz County is managing risk?
They do. They offer that annually.
Okay, so I think that's probably something, I don't remember us ever looking at that formally, a report from the risk management. We'll get some recommendations every once in a while, usually following up a case that gets resolved. And but if there are ways we can anticipate policy changes and practices that can avoid it to begin with, that would be.
For this year, they usually come and do one site visit. And so this year they did a site visit at juvenile detention. And so they did a report, and that's something that once Jeremy came on board, he has a copy of. And so they do at least one area every year for us.
It's their policy to annually visit, and they have they keep track of what it is they think are big risks statewide, and then they focus on that. I can ask them to come at other times. It's a little hard to get them because they don't have a giant amount of resource, but they said anytime I want. And then they're a fabulous resource. I've never seen anything like this. They review contracts if you want. They have insurance suggestions. They're an extremely valuable resource, and I've already used them 3 times for contracts and insurance questions, and they answer very promptly.
Great.
Unless anyone has any questions, I feel like I ran a little bit long probably, but I hope to complete these projects for you, present you a dashboard. Even, if I get hit by a truck, you can see it, and you don't need me to understand what those values are. So.
Is that a county truck you're talking about?
Right? Yeah. No, another county truck. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think our goal is that once a month to present some type of dashboard for you, so you can see some of the analysis that his office is doing.
No, I appreciate that. I come from industry. I had a dashboard I could pull up and see what we're doing, loads and different metrics. So it's a handy piece. And I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Takes care. Did we have any miscellaneous before? I know Jessica has an executive session. Not seeing any hands. Performance of a public employee. How long do you think, Jessica? 10 minutes? Okay, we will adjourn to executive session for performance of a public employee.
The commissioners have extended the executive sessions for 5 minutes until 11:06.
Hey, back from executive session, no decisions were made. Jessica,
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I do have one request for the board this morning, and it's to reclassify the district court accounting specialist lead to district court supervisor at salary grade 500, effective 11/16.
okay,
I move that we do that.
we have a motion. See any questions? See none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, commissioners.
Real quick, any other miscellaneous before we adjourn this first meeting? See none, we will adjourn the 10 o'clock meeting. Yep. Okay, we're up for our public services business meeting.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Moss, Public Services Director. Hopefully you got an agenda on your desk there for today. We have no building and planning items today. We'll have public works and facilities maintenance items only, if that's all right, plus miscellaneous. We're going to start off with public works with a few items that are on tomorrow's agenda, consent items that Susan's just going to give you a quick update on.
So good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. Public Works has 2 items on the consent agenda. We have a completion letter for the Pacific Avenue North Half Bridge project. As you recall, that project was completed earlier this year. We have received all of their paperwork, and this is the final closeout. As a refresher, the $2.8 million project had a $7,371 change order. So it came in very nice, and they were a very good contractor to work in. But this is just finalizing our paperwork. The other public works item is the contract execution for the curve warning signs. This project was awarded to, I can never remember, All Stripe on October 3rd. They were the low bidder and turned in all of their appropriate paperwork required by the state. This project is state funded with safety money. If you recall, in between the bid award and the execution, we also received an increase from the state of $111,700 to pay for this project, and this project is 100% federally funded.
I'm just smiling at your presbyopia. When you are nearsighted, it's myopia. When you cannot accommodate because your eyes age, it's presbyopia. And I noticed you were really struggling.
I forgot my glasses
Gosh.
today, and the one page, I'll hold it up and you can see how horribly small the print is. I'm not sure why anybody would think this could fit on one piece of paper and I could read it. I need my glasses and my magnifying glass to read this one.
Yeah, that's why well, never mind. But I hope you don't mind my being,
No.
we've all been through there.
So I do have just a couple of questions on the half bridge. First off, I'm assuming BNSF is happy.
I've heard nothing, so I'm assuming they're happy.
No news is good news.
Exactly.
They would let us know. All right. And then the traffic control devices are all put away and speeding at.
There is one speed hump left on Cowlitz Garden Lane at their request.
So you're going to keep it there then?
Not permanently. We're just trying to keep it there, make sure everybody starts going back the other way.
Okay. All right.
It's at the very north end, away from most of the residences. We had complaints about them being in the middle, of course, about how noisy they are especially in the middle of the night when trucks and trailers go over them.
Great.
And the next item on Public Works was, while I was on vacation, we had a couple fires. As you guys know, landfill
Literally.
had the tarp fire and the motor pool had a car fire. We're going to give you some updates from what we've heard recently on that. Landfill one, I could not, the investigation really did not find any causes for the fire. We believe it really was on the tarp section only, did not go down into the debris. There may have been a spark from batteries or something that caught the tarp on fire. It was right near the 1600 line, so there could be other reasons it caught fire. But Cowlitz 2, I believe, is investigated with no outcome on that. So
Is there outcome in the future, or are they just saying, we don't know and that's it?
it sounded like they closed the investigation.
Yes, essentially that.
Thank you.
We have tarps on site to repair that area. Actually, that company is doing that. We'll be starting this week. We have enough tarps to do that area only. So, and we usually like to keep extra tarps on site. So we're going to go out to bid for additional tarps. I'm guessing you'll see the paperwork in the next month or so for us to go out for tarps. But I think we burnt up around 8 acres of tarp.
Yeah.
Well, I think our risk manager, we just heard him present, he's not going to be happy with an unknown as the answer.
Yeah, and we actually, I think Savannah reached out to Jeremy on Friday and made sure he was aware of that. Yeah.
Just
Sorry.
awful hard in the 3 different spots, isn't it? I mean,
Well, they talked about maybe there's with the gas buildup a little bit underneath the tarps that it just flared up and then it squirted underneath the tarps and then flared up again in that area there and burnt the tarp up there. That's what we heard from the investigation.
So you're saying that the tarps trapped some gas and
Yep.
Yes.
form a conduit?
Exactly
Yes.
right.
Just what started it was the question.
Yeah.
interesting.
So if we find out any more, we'll certainly tell you guys. The other one was a motor pool fire. As you guys know, it was from a evidence vehicle that was towed in by the sheriff's office. It caught fire, I think the same day or the next day.
It was Tuesday, so the landfill fire was a Sunday and then it was
What day was the
Tuesday.
car towed in? Do you recall? Was it the
Oh,
same
I think it
day?
was, the same day.
Same
It was
day.
that day.
So we're working with Jeremy and the risk pool, some electrical issue in the car, caught fire. Luckily, it was contained to the car, but there is some smoke damage inside that structure. That's the motor pool building is the backside of where ENR is at, closest to the airport. It's really a
Parrot
tenant way
Way.
address, but it's closest to Parrot Way.
Yep.
So try to get some bids in to help clean and repair any damage in there, but it was mainly due to the damage was done to the car, but like I said, there's quite a bit of smoke damage throughout the structure.
So was the evidence destroyed?
That I don't know. I do know a lot of our inventory that was stored in there, like car seats, that we do replacement seats for sheriff's vehicles were damaged by smoke damage. Our Bearcat was in there and that had some soot, but no damage that I'm aware of, other than the vehicle that caught on fire and then also, again, our inventory that was stored there.
And the damage isn't expensive enough to trigger insurance coverage. It's our nickel, right?
That, yes and no. So for a personal property, our deductible's a lot less. I believe it's a $5,000 deductible. So on the inventory items that were stored in there, we could potentially get some funds back. There wasn't any structural damage to the building, which is good because that deductible is a lot higher. So we need to meet with the adjuster, which I just again emailed Jeremy on again about this morning, trying to figure that out and when they're going to be on site. We do have bids back, and then we'll present those to risk as well.
I don't recall us ever having a fire among evidence vehicles
No,
before.
yeah. Most of the time they're actually stored outside. We have a little fenced in area. We have a few trailers back there about us. The sheriff's office does. And most of our wrecked vehicles, they pit maneuvered somebody and they're back there, but they usually don't store them inside. There might be a reason on this particular case. I don't know the reasons behind it for the sheriff's office, but they usually go to the back lot where they're outside.
Mhm.
All right, sounds good. We'll move over to facilities maintenance. Hopefully you guys get a chance to go to HOJ, Hall of Justice parking lot. It's now completed with grind and pave and striping and new curb stops. So it looks really good over there. Our next outside project there will be the ivy, which I think we're going to probably tackle in the springtime. We're tackling the one that we mentioned before between us at this building and the post office. Hopefully the next few weeks, we gave the green light for the landscaper to remove all the ivy here, and then they'll be sprayed a couple of times behind it to make sure it doesn't come back up. But the HOJ ivy will be at a later point. HHS parking lot will be when we have a break in the weather for a day or two. Lakeside will do that parking lot over there. So I think we're getting a break on Wednesday and Thursday this week, but I'm not 100% sure it's scheduled for that point. Lakeside is having their plant open all the way through December since they're doing the major project out at the intersection at the Y for the new warehouse out there. So we have plenty of time in the next 6 weeks to get a break in the weather to get the HHS done before winter really sets in.
Before you have to put tarps back up on the roof.
Yeah. So hopefully, there's a little inconvenience for the people at HOJ when we did the work over there. But like I said, it is needed for many years. That parking lot was in terrible shape. So it looks so much better now.
Yeah.
5-year plan workshop scheduling. We're hoping, we're hoping to get it on to maybe tomorrow. It looked like your calendar is fairly light, and we're hoping to bring back the 5-year maintenance plan. They had a few different options there for you guys. I think tomorrow at 1:30, you had the planning commission discussion, and there's just the miscellaneous. So if you guys have time tomorrow, I'm hoping maybe for a 20 or 30-minute discussion on that maintenance plan that we brought to you guys during the budget hearing. I don't know, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? We got a little bit of detail, but not tons, but we figured we'd workshop it on a different day. So if you guys are, if you're available tomorrow, we'd love to workshop that tomorrow with you.
Do we get almonds again?
Yeah, sure. Good job. The next 2 items, I'm gonna turn over to Will on the Health and Human Services roll-up door, and there's a change order at the jail that he'd like to discuss.
Good morning, Commissioners. Will Tosted, Facilities Maintenance Manager. I think Gina James is on as well. I think she wanted to explain the need for the door, and I can answer any questions. You want to start off, Gina?
Sure. Yes. Thank you. Gina James, Health and Human Services. We wanted to touch base with the board on this roll-up door. You may recall it's been some time. We were looking into options for the front of our building. It creates a really nice alcove in the front of our building where the public enters, where the doors open and close, but it's sort of a squared off alcove area. We have a lot of campers who find their way there overnight and leave messes in the morning. On one occasion, there was an individual attempted to start a fire right there in the entryway to our building. So we reached out to facilities and started looking at options. So facilities helped us. We went out to bid for a roll-up door to block that area off. The first bid that came back was just under $38,000 to put a door there. So we had a bit of a sticker shock and decided to go out for bid again to see if it would make a difference. So it went out for bid again. We received one additional bid back at $31,123. That includes the door, and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, includes the cost of the door, the labor, and some electrical work that would need to be done to install the door in the front of the building. It was still a bit of a sticker shock. We just kind of wanted to pause and check in with the board. We would like to block that area off to prevent the people from sleeping in that kind of alcove area. They often leave messes that either staff or we have to call facilities to come and clean up. They often use it for a restroom and other things. So we're looking for ways to help mitigate that so we don't have to call facilities or have our own staff go out and clean up so that the public's not walking through that mess. So anyways, we just wanted to kind of pause and touch base with the board and see if we can move forward with getting that door installed, or if we should look at other options. I'm not sure what other options would be, but anyways, I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Gina. And to expand off that, yes, maintenance gets called weekly or at least bi-weekly, and we have to go remove sleeping bags, blankets, feces, that kind of thing. They did have 2 decorative planters in front of the area at some point that were also used as restrooms. So we removed the planters, but there's still a mess there. I think it's just the proximity of the location, and HHS is looking for ideas to, mitigate that. Any questions?
Who is paying for the door?
I believe it's HHS is paying for that door.
I think we're seeing that similar type of strategy being used on all kinds of buildings around town, where they're locking a church across the street from here.
Yep.
Had to build a wall and a new door.
Yep.
Because they had exactly the same kind of a ideal. Probably something similar is needed at the museum, and they're constantly fighting the same kind of stuff in the
Yep,
back
that back door.
entrance. Although it's less convenient to have a pull down door there, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture the building. Is there any parts of the building, if we do this, or are they just going to move to a different part of the building? I can't picture it really.
Yeah, so I can expand on that a little bit. So it's about a 3.5 foot alcove, maybe 30 foot wide. Those are the rough estimates that they go over. However, to answer your question fully, there's a covered sidewalk that would be, but it's not tucked in an alcove. From my experience, it's the alcoves. Someone feels hidden or protected, or it's a windbreak. But the covered sidewalk, although it's covered, I don't think it would be much of a place to stay.
Okay.
Gina, is your back door at the HHS, is that covered back there, or is it just flush to the back parking lot?
Flush.
Is it?
It's flush, yeah. Yeah, that's our only sort of alcove area in the front.
the back door is flush, the front door is flushed. Regularly, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Have to do it, I think.
sad, but
Any other questions? Gina, any other comments?
No, like I said, we'd like to move forward. We just wanted to do a touch base with the board and see if you're okay with that.
And that's correct, that HHS is paying for that, Gina?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, in lieu of a heavy electrical grid, you could do. I think it's sad that we have to do that kind of stuff, but I understand it, so I don't have any heartburn with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next topic, which is on the jail HVAC project. We have a proposed change order. It's $23,204.58. What the change order would be for is part of the original contract. It's a large contract. So although that's a lot of money in the
It's
grants,
23K up or down?
23 more.
Oh,
So although in the grand scheme of things, it does seem like a lot, the project's 600,000. So it's fairly a small change order. But what that change order is for is to repair what's called a FTU, or a fan thermal unit. So identified as part of the contract, pretty much since the jail was built in 2004, they've had heating and cooling issues that have remained for all these years. So as part of the contract, Don added in the scope of work, Don Nyman, project coordinator, is to investigate these fan thermal units and identify parts that need replaced in order to get the system working how it should have been in full capacity. We're still having issues there as the fan thermal units haven't been repaired yet. But once that happens, we can commission and fully repair and fix that system.
Just for clarification, I'm fairly fresh. This one
Yeah.
too is, so the FTUs were throughout the structure. You, with J.H. Kelly put new units on the top. So for them to, is it to talk to each other or control the airflow? Is the FTUs, how do they work with this stuff on top?
So it works twofold. It's part of dampeners and it's also a part of reheat units or reheat boxes throughout ductwork. As there's long stretches of ductwork, it requires a fan thermal unit to keep that air constantly moving towards the end of the trunk or towards the end of the system. I believe this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The cost is for 11 replacement fan thermal units. So that tells you about half are failed.
So you knew there was an issue that was in the scope of work, but you really didn't know to what level till you guys were commissioning the units.
Correct.
Found out that there were 11 of them broke and now it's a change order to replace those 11.
Yep.
Okay.
You perfectly described that. So the reason we couldn't include it in the bid is because we didn't know. So we can't ask for a cost of what we don't know that needs fixed. Is why we added the discovery in there. And we got a report that showed the units that need replaced.
So you said the cost was 123,000 higher
No, just 23,000. But
to fix
the
11 units.
So about
Yep.
$2,000 a
fairly-
unit roughly.
That's a fairly good trade-off then, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I would think so. And like I said, the repair would be to, if you ask anybody from the jail, they've had heating and cooling issues for many, many years. And this would be to get the system back into how it should have been in the beginning and a full repair, not just repair part of the system.
so you're probably not aware, Will, because you're wearing a jacket, but we've got heating and cooling problems here. too.
Everywhere, yes, yeah. I checked this morning and it was 71, which was adequate, but it has cooled down since.
I agree. It's a reasonable thing to do. It does point out something that in time we might be able to address, which is what you'd normally call an acceptance test procedure, where on contracts like this, there should be something specified that at the end, they prove to you that the FTUs were properly installed and done. I can just imagine, I'm not saying it happened that way, but it's easy to happen this way. I bid to build a jail and I get near the end and I'm like, let's just get this done. I'm going broke here or something like that. And I'm not going to, we need to have test procedures in there so they have to complete the job properly. And I don't think we typically have that in the past. I'm pretty sure you guys are on that now, but
Yep.
I just want to repeat.
Yeah, and that test procedure is exactly what we call commissioning. And it's the turnover, whether it's the commissioning of a building or an HVAC unit. That commissioning turnover, sometimes we need engineering support, but it's commissioning and training to maintenance staff that we've included on a lot of these newer projects, the morgue, this large HVAC project.
And it's in the contract then that
Yep,
says you've
yep.
got to be successful at your ATP.
It is, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, J.H. Kelly's been pretty fair with us. They saved us.
Oh,
I don't
they're-
remember that one project where they found a way to do it and saved a ton of money. So
A couple $100,000 on the
Yeah.
project, yeah.
I think this is the
is-
same project.
it's just the same
Same
project.
project, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so, yeah, instead of having the unit scabbed on the side, it was built in with a replacement
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah. So we're good.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. And with that, I'll turn it over to miscellaneous from you guys or anybody from, I guess, the crowd, but I'll start with you
Well,
guys.
You could start with me.
Yeah.
We've had some discussions on Remind the Road, you know, the property I'm talking about, the Keeps.
Oak Point,
Yeah,
yes.
Oak Point Road.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do with
So
that?
today at 3:30, we're meeting the Keeps out there along with county engineer and our road operations supervisor to a walkthrough of the property.
Okay. so my colleagues know where I'm at on this, on the keeps on Oak Point Road. We found a way to help them on part of the driveway, but the front part had these dimensions and they had at least three different bids that were over 77,000 to 80,000, which just seemed totally unconscionable to me. So I had a discussion with Public Works in one of their meetings. They said, man, it shouldn't be that much. So I asked the Keeps to get more bids and gave them some suggestions. They still came back with a bid of 77,000.
Correct.
To do roughly 50 feet of asphalt and to widen.
Yeah, the bids I saw actually were a lot further than that. Once I started looking to it, it's like 300 feet back. A lot of this work was getting done. That's why I think it's best to maybe meet with the Keeps on the property side itself to do a walkthrough to really figure out what's needed at the very beginning of the right of way with us and what's needed further back. That might help both sides today.
If we were going back to a huge development, I can kind of understand that, but we're talking about, we're going to end up with 3 houses on this.
Yeah, it sounds like there are
2 houses on actually their driveway and 3 houses on this from the road frontage.
Yeah, and I had a chance to visit with the Keeps this morning before our meeting here. It sounded like most of their parcels back there are around the 2-acre size lots already, so they're probably not going to be broke down any further. So,
well, and I just, in my opinion, that's unreasonable to ask a homeowner to do that kind of work. If you're asking a developer and he's building 100 homes, I kind of get that. But when you got a homeowner that you're saying, oh, it's going to cost you $80,000 to do this. I mean, you would agree. I wouldn't ask that of you. I wouldn't ask that of anybody.
So we're talking about public right of way access?
no, it's actually a
or-
private driveway to a county road. And I think Susan can help me out here, but the beginning of off the right of way, how wide the road needs to be on the private road or on their private driveway to start with. I think that's our main discussion point today with the Keeps is how wide is that initial part on the right of way, how wide that road needs to be for that many houses.
So we have a standard detail for access to a private road, which by our code is defined as anything that serves 3 or more houses. So the initial 50 feet off of the public roadway needs to be paved. It needs to have the radiuses that allow larger vehicles to turn in, and it is 24 feet wide, which would be 2 12-foot lanes, which is the standard we're trying to bring all of our roads to. So that is our standard access detail for a private road. It gives you the ability to have a vehicle sitting there to ready to turn out and a vehicle to turn in because the average ADT from a single family home is 10 trips. So that would be for 3 is 30 a day. And so it gives the ability for people to move in and out without blocking the public right of way. And so that is why the design was set up like that.
But where are we going to end up on this thing?
Let's visit the site today to see what kind of access they have egress from that property. I showed Susan a couple of pictures of a video I had last week when I went and visited the site. But we usually have better success just as a group going out to visiting a site and see what we can do out there. They might have issues on both sides of the road. We got to see there's power poles on one side. There's a nice fir tree on the other. We just got to, it's usually the lay of the land might help us out.
And
I can't give you an exact answer today.
And how long after you get the lay of the land can we get it resolved? I mean, we got people wanting to build a home here.
So yes, we have people wanting to build a home, but my main goal is always public safety on the traveled road because that as
We've got 3 homes down there, public safety on this road. If we were to punch in another driveway, we wouldn't have all these issues. I don't want to, you don't have a public safety issue out of Oak Point Road. So if you're going to argue that with me, I'm not going to accept it because you just don't. If you're running through Lexington, yeah, you do. So
let's look today, Commissioner, and then we'll give you an answer tomorrow after we get a chance to visit with
Okay.
everybody
I
on
just
site.
don't want something 2, 3, 4 weeks down the
Oh,
road.
no. I know they're ready to build, yeah.
Okay.
And they're waiting for, I think, PUDs, they're waiting for the road to get in place so they can get power out to the site and stuff. So I know there's things in place that they want to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I first brought this to you, you guys are saying there's no way it should cost that much.
Yeah,
It should be 10 grand at
Yeah.
the
But
most.
that's why I want to look at the bid
And if
with
it
them
was
out there because
that we wouldn't even be having a discussion here, but
because some of the costs that were in here, it looks, that's why I want to visit with them on site because some of this, the costs that were on these bids were like 300 feet of that width all the way back. And that really wasn't the requirement. So I want to see what they got bids for, and what we're really looking for from an agency, see if they're the same or not.
because I know they're willing to spend an amount of money. They don't expect it for free, but
Yeah.
but if you were building a house or you were building a house, I'd be sitting here arguing the same thing. I'm not going to charge you $80,000 to get access to your house.
Correct. Yeah. And we had that discussion. I'm building a house now and my approach wasn't that much, but I also have one house on my driveway, but I certainly
Maybe I
don't
better
spend
up your bill, Mark.
$66,000 on a driveway.
Yeah,
Sure.
might have to send you a new bill. Okay. I don't know if my colleagues want to chime in or not. I had another miscellaneous.
Yeah.
And this one is really, it's an idea and it started, and I talked to building and planning a little bit about it, but we've had more and more instances where we get emails, calls on, like we got a trailer sitting in the neighbors are saying it's dripping sewage. I mean, these kind of, I don't know if you want to call them nuisance calls, but property calls where somebody's put in a trailer or they're building by my well, or we have all these different things. And what typically happens, we hear is, I went to building and planning and they said, no, it's an ecology thing. So I went to ecology and they said, no, it's this type of thing. And so the thought came up that, and this is really just an idea and looking for opinions, is maybe, and the commissioner's office would facilitate putting this together. I've talked to our executive assistant about this, a committee that these things could go to that had ecology, had public works, had building and planning, and they could look at the problem and say, this is handled this way and it goes through here and it gets directed and it gets handled instead of them jumping from place to place. And sometimes handled might be, you know what, that's really not a county issue. You got a neighborhood dispute. You need to figure that out.
Correct.
You know, instead of them jumping around to every department and then they come to us. And so it's really just an idea of what you guys think. And if you'd be open to that, like I said, the commissioner's office would run with that if you guys were open and wanted to
For
try
sure. I
it.
think it's a good idea. The nuisance abatement officer, I could see them leading that charge along with the executive assistant. And then maybe a monthly meeting of what fresh came through as a new file and what the existing ones are and what priority they are. And like you said, who's the lead agency taking the lead role? Because a lot of people think it might be a public works issue, but if it's sewage, it's an EHU issue. Or if it's a trailer in the right of way, yeah, it's our issue. But if it's off the right of way, it might be a citizen versus citizen issue.
And if it go to this group and they can figure that out.
Yep.
And then it says, hey, we've had these issues. This is what we did. Then that phone call with me, if they call me or they call our colleagues, it's a different conversation.
Right. Yep.
I thought we already had that set up at one time with the nuisance abatement officer and the deputy. We'd got an agreement with the deputy, and I think Patrick was in on the group that had to anticipate it. And yet we keep hearing people, the silos are stronger than ever, and the citizens get shunted around from one office to the other.
I don't remember there ever being a committee, but I thought that, as you said, the nuisance abatement, and that was part of the reason we reestablished that,
Right.
was so the nuisance abatement person was running point and saying, oh, it's a sewage issue, that's EHU, and doing that coordination so that they weren't getting bounced. They had one main point of contact. I thought that That's my recollection when we reset up the nuisance abatement. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Weber, we did meet a couple times on a couple of issues, but it's never a set meeting. And it's mainly for the stuff out on, is it Nemai?
Or either that or that sunset.
Sunset, yeah, where we had EHU, sheriff, everybody in the room at the
Nemai
same
Road was
time.
one of them out
Yep.
west of town, and
Yep.
then, yeah.
Yeah,
there's
that's what,
a-
yeah, so it wasn't a set committee. It was just like, oh, we have a couple major issues. Let's get together as a group and get a game plan together.
So would it make you throw up if I had her work with departments on that? You'd be okay with
Oh,
that?
yeah, for sure. Because like you said, there's the
You guys
silos.
okay with that? Questions?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, but I have questions. It's even though you're a commissioner and you're expected to behave in a certain way, I know that if somebody came to you with a problem, you wouldn't just hand them off completely and not check back and make sure.
No.
Right. And so I think we need in the different agencies that face the public, we need to have the attitude of a firm handshake transfer over. So this is a EHU problem that came to somebody else. Well, then EHU, they accept it. I mean, that the first contact talks to EHU and said, this looks like it's your problem. If they say it is, then they take it from there to completion. We need to have that kind of attitude, which is what would happen with the committee. I'm not so favorable towards a group of meeting 6 to 10 people. Because we typically know that for half a dozen of the people there, it's a waste of time at the moment. The other concern I have or a fear is that we get so many complaints that I wouldn't want to tie up stuff unneededly. And if you advertise that you have a committee out there, you're going to get a lot of phone calls of the kind, which I don't like my neighbor and he's doing this and that. And it just chews up a lot of time. That's where the officer, that name escapes me now.
Deputy.
No, the problem officer,
Oh,
the
nuisance
nuisance abatement officer. Yeah, thank you. Comes into play. So I wouldn't want the committee to supplant that, but I would want the committee to hear that the public has issues. And then collectively, maybe they can come up with a better way of approaching things. So long story there is, yeah, I'm okay with that. We have to be aware that it needs to be done well.
Probably the solution is we just move building and planning and EHU out to the same facility as well, Public Works. Then you're all together in one office and one-stop shopping, right? There's plenty of room out there, right?
Yes.
I think
Plenty of
that they used to have that downstairs, where the Public Works is downstairs.
Yeah, they were, yeah, correct, yeah.
With parks
Is it
and.
Parks, everything was in one stop. Yep, yeah.
Because the maps still show it down there,
Yeah.
Public Works.
Just, people are what's used for housing these days. It's changing. I mean, I only bring up the name because I'm familiar with it, but it's all these type of parks, Paradise Cove. When that was done in the 70s, you came and you stayed a week and you fished and you hunted and you fired up and you went away. Well, if you were to walk, if the three of us were to walk through that today and ask everybody in there if they were here for a short term or if this was their home, I'm guessing that way more than 90%, closer to 100 are going to say, this is my home.
Yep.
So we seem to be running into the issues that revolve around these type of situations, whether it's people putting travel trailers on their property and renting them out or whatever it is. It just seems to be more prevalent.
Is the mailbox kind of a giveaway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's just, trying to kick around ideas and how we address some of those in a more expedient manner if possible.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the sheriff's department there. We have Deputy Harris with us at Public Works, but 9% of our calls, complaints from road hazards, stuff in the right of way go through him with Hulk permits and trying to work with neighbors to get cars out of the way. But they hear a lot, not just from our staff, but directly from the 911 comm center. So with them in the room, I think they're an important piece of that puzzle for us.
Yeah. It really stems from a desire on my point. I'm not saying I want to give them all the answer they want, but they need an answer.
Yes.
And even if it's not the answer they want, we get them an answer, and that's what it is.
I agree. Yeah, we're game.
I was just going to provide maybe unwanted feedback, but talking about maybe we do have new people in positions, and the new assistant abatement officer in building and planning is a relatively newly filled position. It could be also a training aspect. We meet with building and planning weekly, and then also EHU season comes in on a weekly meeting, with them as well. It could be truly really getting together and communicating a better process. And I only say that because I don't, we hear like death by committee or adding more red tape, and I would hate to slow down some response time just because, we're meeting monthly. And so some of these may not be reviewed. I don't know. I just feel like we can also help out by communicating better with the groups that we're working with. And also start there until, if you guys decide another committee is one, the direction, then we can move towards there and at least have some training and communication prior to that.
Well, if you already got a group meeting, it doesn't have to be a whole brand new committee.
It's not all those members.
Utilize
It's
resources.
not all those members. It is
Time, it's
yes.
individual. but
So,
yeah.
so I'm thinking we can coordinate that better. Instead of having split groups, we're already there once a week. Why not get together, all of us, once a week, as opposed to separate groups, and just get on the same page and have nuisance abatement present.
Yeah.
So Savannah, in an earlier lifetime, didn't you do process redesign? That's kind of your.
It's been a while, but yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like making things, I like improving things. I like that gratification. So I just think that
It's worked with Mike. I mean, it's just awesome.
we've still got some work to do.
Lots of
Commissioner
work to
Weber.
do.
But no, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of take advantage of getting better communication within those divisions, for sure. That's my 2 cents.
But, and I'll be honest, there's a little bit of selfishness in there too. If we have somebody from the commissioner, then I can walk out to a desk and say, where are we on this? So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that'd be imperative to have Kelly involved in these meetings.
I can re-say that from the public standpoint. Do I really have to go talk to a commissioner to get something taken care of? And that shows that we need to improve something.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate your input. Any other miscellaneous?
No hands up.
No hands up? Any comments? Anything? Okay. We will adjourn. Thank you.